Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.
Good Saturday morning to you. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101, and I am back with my co-host for this Saturday, Holly Cobb from, she is a registered nurse practitioner at Oasis Family Medicine. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning, Carrie. Great to be here again.
I am so happy to have you again. So Holly and Dr. Jennifer Herder have been rotating with me, which has really been pretty fun. It's great. And so we are going to be talking about, on Facebook, we were talking about everybody joking. They're constantly at the refrigerator. And so fortunately, I've got diet pills. I'm not going to lie. So I don't get that hungry. And that has been a godsend. Otherwise, I can't imagine how much weight I'd be gaining right now.
This has been a topic I have heard. One of the funny memes I saw was about wearing your masks in your home, not outside of your home, to prevent unneeded eating. So it is something that has come up, and I've had a few patients talk to me about it, and that sense is very much out there. So
I used to have a friend joke about having her mouth wired shut.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about, not even in this time when we're all at home more, but just in general, is eating from boredom. And if people are bored, that's definitely on the things to do list. I mean, a good cookie or a good snack is always on my to do list when I'm bored. Some strategies for doing that is moving it down on the list. And there's the 15-minute rule where when the idea comes to your head about having that snack, wait. Just wait. If you're hungry, 15 minutes later, you're still going to be hungry. A snack's a good idea. If you're not, if you move on to the next thing on your list to do and you're not hungry, then chances are you're not going to be eating until your next meal. So keeping things like that in mind, just as you're walking through the kitchen, that's not a good enough reason to get a snack. So use the 15-minute rule, and that's been something that can be really helpful for people. Another good tip I will share is at the times of heightened stress, which we are definitely all in, comfort food is comforting, and we all have our own ideas of what comfort food is. Mac and cheese kind of goes back to my childhood comfort food. And sometimes comfort food is not among the healthiest things to eat. They can be pretty carb-laden. So eating your comfort food, letting yourself have it, but then moving on. And also alterations in comfort food are good, too. If you're a baker, there is things you can use to substitute with flour and sugar that can be really healthy. So think about good substitutions. Some people, just the act of baking is very comforting to them. So while you have some extra time, challenge yourself to make some of those comfort foods a little bit healthier. And I think those strategies can serve you well long-term, too. And another idea, if you're going to make that comfort food, take it to your neighbor. Take it to the office. You don't have to be the one to eat it. Just because you made delicious food doesn't mean you have to necessarily be the one to eat all that delicious food, too. So, Carrie, last time you had mentioned the online shopping, what a big fan you were of that, and I love that, too. And I've noticed I've done it for a couple years now, and since I've done that, I think it's helped my eating because you're not strolling down the candy aisle and, throwing the bag of, chocolate in there, and it's a little more structured eating. So it's a great time to do online shopping since we're all social distancing.
I find it helpful to actually already have the prepackaged, think Lean Cuisine type meals. I kind of tend to buy a little bit more keto driven, but I don't have to think about what it is I'm cooking, and it keeps me from going downstairs and making something that is, really fattening, because I'm from the South and I'm used to eating things that are heavier. And so I like the prepackaged, don't have to think about it, pop it in the microwave. Not always the healthiest, but it's easy.
That's a great idea. There are some healthy varieties now of that. The Power Bowls made by Healthy Choice, and there are some really frozen, convenient foods that are healthier these days, and that's really nice. The water with everything to keep you from being as hungry, so keeping water intake up. I think we've all heard that many times, and everybody agrees it's a great idea, but it's so darn hard to do. So keep that up, too, and I think that'll help with the snacking. I have a friend who sets her phone with the water tone, and whenever she hears the water tone, drinks her water, and reminders like that can be really helpful, too.
I have mine set to where it reminds me to get up and move, because I'm real bad about, I'll sit down and focus on something, and then it'll be several hours, and I have not even got up to move or eaten or drank anything at all. And so it dings or buzzes my watch to tell me move. So
that is great. That is, yeah. And as long as people use those cues, they can become habits, because that's what we're all after, is having that movement and water drinking, and those healthy habits become a part of our life. And so that repetition of doing them, I think, can be really helpful. So we've probably all heard the research, 3 weeks to make a habit, and we've been in COVID isolation now for about 5 weeks. So, and there's going to be more time. So I think we still all have some time to work on our habits and maybe come out a step or two ahead in the area. Because it is, even though there is boredom eating and eating for comfort going on, there's also a chance to actually improve eating habits, which it is a time that could do that. So.
Absolutely. I was pretty nervous yesterday because it was the first day that I was actually going to be getting out of the house to go show houses, and in a little bit, and obviously safe practices, masks and gloves and all that. And I told my team, I said, man, I hope my pants haven't shrank. So I was pretty excited that whenever I put them on, I was actually losing weight. So
nice.
That was good.
Yeah, you're doing some good COVID dieting. Good for you. Or healthy eating. Definitely healthy eating. That's great.
Yeah. I call it intermittent fasting. I sit down and I get to work and I forget to eat. So that's good.
Yep.
Okay, so glimmers of hope. Obviously, we've been quarantined for a long time now, what seems like a really long time. Ways to obviously, we're going to be able to start getting back out into the public again. And I've been seeing on Facebook where everybody's like, what's the first thing you're going to do? And everybody's talking about, throwing parties and getting together. And what would be safe ways to make sure that you're integrating back into the public?
Yeah, I think not jumping in head first necessarily, and kind of thinking through things. When this is lifted, if there's a big game, that a team that I want to see, I don't know if I'm going to be that at the arena the first time that it's open. Not because I'm scared, but I think slowly and thoughtfully opening things back up and integrating back into life is prudent. I think that's just a prudent way to be. We will still have plenty of people that do not have immunity to COVID-19. The reason we are isolating right now is not because we're not going to get it. We're all going to get it. It's to have a controlled rollout of when we all get it, so we don't overwhelm the healthcare system. So we will all be exposed to this at some point, but we don't want to be exposed at the same time. The majority, the vast, vast, vast majority of us are going to get through it just fine. But we don't want everybody sick at once, overwhelming the system, so that's why this is happening. I think we've heard about, okay, now that this seems to be going fairly well, making some progress and lowering the curve, we don't want everybody to show up in the same spot at once and then have a round two of it. So that would be one of the potential concerns about just going headfirst into, a gathering of thousands as soon as this is lifted. So.
Right. And I think, the biggest concern really is not necessarily those of us that'll get through it just fine. It's the ones that won't. So being very conscious about, going to see grandma and grandpa or someone that is, on chemo or, babies, be careful about kissing on babies and snuggling up to them and things like that. Just, be very conscious about who you're interacting with.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I will be more anxious to get back to is right now we're classified into essential and kind of non-essential businesses. I'm anxious to go give business to the people labeled non-essential businesses. Those are going to be, some of the hairdressers and the professions who have been labeled that, they're essential. And going back and seeing my hairdresser, I will really look forward to that. So I think there's some openings that are going to be easier and more reasonable to go to, but the big gatherings, I think we should give it pause before we jump in.
Absolutely. And the restaurants, definitely be checking to see who's still open. I know a lot of them are doing the drive-through and the delivery. They bring it out to you. And, just helping them out, keeping their doors open. And, they've had to scale way back. And the Small Business Association has run out of money right now. So, if they didn't go ahead and get that money, that's definitely going to hurt for a while.
Yeah.
So utilize them as much as you can, help them out. And I know for sure my massage therapist, I cannot wait to see her. I'm counting the days. So.
That's great. Yeah, a personal story. I had a family member who is in the service industry and lost their job because, laid off until the establishment reopens. And COVID-19 got really real for our family when that happened, because not only do you have that potential worry about health, then you have the economic concern. And although this person is going to be just fine, it tends to get really real when it affects you in the pocketbook, and you have to think your way through it, and it gets a little scarier. And I think you also question, okay, why are we doing this? What are the reasons that we are doing this? And the longer this goes on, I am hearing people, these stories where it's affecting people in the pocketbook. And so you want to stay really healthy, really positive, know that there's a way through this, and getting back to work should definitely be in the plan for the essential and non-essential people. And I'm excited for people to just welcome them back with open arms and give them business in the safest way possible to get their revenue stream going again.
Absolutely. And if you are struggling right now, especially with things like mortgages and rent, housing and credit counseling is a great place to call. Chris Burke with Housing and Credit Counseling, I've spoken with him, and he is really good at negotiating with those servicers to help you get a deferment or forbearance, or however, it depends on who the lender is, how they're tracking that. And he's really good at explaining it, because I wanted to be able to send out to my clients and say, okay, if you're struggling right now, here is what you can be doing. Some people have got paid for some insurances that they may not realize that they have if they've lost their jobs. So check on that and make sure that you typically don't remember having done that. So check to see if you've done it. But Housing and Credit Counseling is really good at that. Teresa Baker at Housing and Credit Counseling for renters. Call there, ask some questions, see what you need to be doing, because unfortunately that's not necessarily protected, but she will be able to answer your questions and work with the landlords. So be sure and call.
Yeah, that is great advice. I know some of the executive orders that have been coming out are made to help people, and I have heard people who are getting their stimulus money, and so it's nice that things like that are coming in. As far as some of the professions with license, I know right now one of the executive orders did waive dates for expiration on license. So let's say you're in a profession where you have a license, a nurse or healthcare worker, nurse practitioner or physician. If it's going to expire during this COVID-19 time, you have a little bit of grace to get it done because things are just taking longer to get done. So some of the executive orders, I think, have spoken to that. Definitely not a fix, just a temporary solution, but really look forward to things getting back to normal.
And while we were on this subject real quick, Housing and Credit Counseling, their number is 785-234-0217. So if you need that, be sure and give them a call. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back to talk a little bit more about how Topeka's looking with the COVID crisis.
It's the season for brand new mulch, and Brown's Tree Service has got your yard covered. Brown's Tree Service utilizes hardwood mulch that retains more moisture. Not only does mulch make your yard more appealing, it also reduces weeds, improves soil, and creates insulation for plants. Get the right mulch for your job at Brown's Tree Service. They shred it, haul it, and spread it in bulk. Or you can haul it yourself for the personal touch to your property. Call Brown's Tree Service at 785-379-9212 or visit online at brownstreeservicelc.com.
At SportsMomsUnited.com, we celebrate every athlete and support every sports mom. SportsMomsUnited.com is on a mission to put logic back in youth sports. When you ask young athletes why they play sports, their number one answer is fun. For them, that means being on a team, making new friends, having a good time, all of which are awesome memories. We add to the memories by featuring an athlete of the day and sharing their story. Nominate an athlete today at www.sportsmomsunited.com.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 Engage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I am back with Holly Cobb. She's a registered nurse practitioner at Oasis Family Medicine, and actually the founding registered nurse practitioner there. She and Jennifer Herder started the practice, how many, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years. Time flies.
Yeah. So before the break, I had mentioned COVID. At the clinic, you guys are testing for COVID, correct?
We are, correct.
So have you seen many tests there?
We have tested about 10% of our clinic population, and we are yet to have positives at our clinic. There are people, based on their travel history or based on their symptoms, that can screen positive, and so far we have not had a positive test. So you can very much have symptoms that mimic it and have a negative test. The tests are about 70% sensitivity and specificity, and that means they're not 100% accurate. Once we test somebody, you are quarantined until you get those test results. And then because we're at such a heightened time, if you're still having symptoms, there might be an add-on recommendation to stay home because the tests aren't 100% accurate. They're pretty good, but not 100% accurate. So just because you have a negative test doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be off quarantine. We're still going to ask about symptoms. We're still going to ask about, fever. We're still going to, if you were in the scenario, you were in a cruise, well, you're just quarantined for 14 days. So there is a lot of details to look at when deciding what's the next best step with someone, regardless of the positive or negative test. The other thing that we're going to see as time goes on is it's just out in the general community. Some of the screening is going to be less and less important as time marches forward, because COVID-19 is going to be spread from person to person, and screening is, going to be impossible. That's how it is with other coronaviruses that, common colds, that type of stuff. It's just out there. We don't quarantine people. We do ask them to stay home when they're sick, but why? Because it's so common. It's out in the population. So eventually, not yet, that will happen. That's a ways down the road. Until that time, we're all social distancing. We're all being careful. No large gatherings. And masks. When I was on 2 weeks ago co-hosting with you, the mask order had not been given by the Surgeon General. We had been told no masks, and now everyone is walking around in their masks. So many cute masks out there. People have really taken that call, and I think I was in the store 2 days ago, and I would say it was about 40 to 50% of the people had masks on, and I think it's only going to continue to grow. So definitely still a fluid situation. We still are testing, and test kits have become more. The problem of scarcity, I have not been hearing. So I think what we initially saw at the outset, that problem is going away. So definitely making some good steps forward in solving this.
So obviously, we're all going to end up being exposed at some point. What would you say would be good things to be doing right now to build up an immune system to where you have a less of an impact when you probably do end up getting it?
Sure. Healthy lifestyle, just basic healthy lifestyle, getting enough sleep, eating healthy. Vitamin C has been in some of the literature of something that you can do to help to stay healthy and be helpful specifically with COVID-19 as far as keeping immunity healthy, not necessarily preventing it, but making it less likely that when you get it, it will hit you hard. So that's something you can do. You could take it in a pill. You can, eat a couple more oranges a day, but vitamin C, and then really, really just healthy lifestyle. If you can get all your vitamins through fruits and vegetables and food, do it that way. If you think you're lacking a little bit, go ahead and take a daily vitamin. And then, if you want to take vitamin C as well, then that is completely reasonable to do. Vitamin C is one of those vitamins, if you take too much, our body gets rid of the excess. You don't have to worry about toxic levels. But again, why do you wouldn't need to necessarily take mega amounts of vitamin C, but just the increase in vitamin C would be a reasonable thing to do.
And so obviously stress on when we talked the last time, we were talking about anxiety, and it obviously is, people not working and not having the income. It's definitely a heightened issue. What are your tips to try and keep that in check?
Yeah, if you have heightened stress and anxiety, you are a normal human being. How you handle that is going to really make a difference in how you feel during this time. So things that I think can be helpful for people, just naming it, just saying, gosh, I'm worried, I'm stressed, I am anxious, and these are the reasons why, to your support group, to that trusted group you have, and just naming it can be really helpful. And social isolation is part of it. Get on the Zoom. You get the free Zoom accounts for 40 minutes, and I think otherwise they're about $14 a month. So lots of different sources to reach out to people if you are feeling isolated. If you have anxiety that you're not sure what to do with, you have reached out to people, you're exercising and spending that mindful time to balance your work and life and stress, and it's still bothering you, that's a good time to reach out for some professional help via a therapist. Your primary care provider would be a great way to start as well. Talk therapy would be a great idea. Medications also could be in your toolkit. There are people who, during a heightened time of anxiety, might need that extra help that medication can provide. So that would be a discussion for you and your primary care provider to have. Medication and talk therapy in combination for anxiety is really the best combination. And that's really after you have done things like reach out to people, exercise, and things that you already have in your toolkit that you have found helpful. So at any point, you're welcome to obviously reach out to a primary care provider or therapist, but things that have a track record of working with people are kind of what I had just discussed.
And really, obviously, everybody is going through this at the same time. And I mentioned earlier housing and credit counseling as far as rent and mortgage payments are concerned, but they can also help get you back on track with all of your bills. So talk with them about that. Get a plan together. They can definitely help you rebound. We've had clients in the past that, life just hit them. A lot of times it's a medical thing, sometimes divorce, just life in general, loss of job. And by the time they're done, everybody's hit that time at some point. I would say the majority of people have. When they're done, it's like a non-issue. Credit scores have rebounded, able to buy houses, buy cars, just pick up life like it was just, before this happened. So don't look at it as I'm never going to be able to rebound. People think that once their credit score drops that it's the end of the world and they'll never be able to recover from it, and that is just not the case. Usually it is at most a 6-month thing. And so it is not it's not the end all. It's just it's a blip. So look at it that way and just know that this blip is going to be over with, and you're not alone. So it's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's good advice. Each day we're one day closer to what our new normal is going to be. So that's just know each day that goes by is we're getting closer to it being a new normal. So, and another way to kind of turn it around. The other thing I have heard is the flip side. Some people saying, I kind of like working from home. I kind of like being at home. Depending on your personality type, some people, not that they like the COVID-19 scenario or the reasons why, the fact that we're in a pandemic, but kind of like being at home. So there are people who might end up struggling on the flip side, saying, I don't know if I want to go back to work. I really have enjoyed this home time. So I've been surprised at how many people I have heard that from. Not the financial insecurities. Nobody likes those. But if you're at home and you are not worried about bills and not worried about a job, some people just kind of like their current situation. And it's interesting, when I think about businesses, I've thought, okay, there's businesses that are struggling that has completely affected how they are operating or not operating, as in the restaurants, some that are kind of neutral, and some that are really thriving at the grocery stores, and gosh, I bet Netflix is. So it's interesting to think about it from a business angle, all of the different scenarios, how this pandemic has played out.
I've seen several friends say, I think I'm going to change what I'm doing even. So it was like the pivotal thing that said, okay, maybe it's time to change. So me personally, I like working from home. I get more done. So it's definitely going to change how people work, and I think that's a good thing. So thank you so much for listening to Real Estate 101. Thank you so much, Holly, from Oasis Family Medicine, for being on, and we will be back again next week. So be sure and join us.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.